Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. Today, guess what it is? It is playoff baseball time. Yes, we are already to the end of the regular season. The playoff brackets are here. Teams have made it, and it's time to make our picks through the playoffs all the way to the World Series. This is going to be pure epicness. This should be a very good year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you want to see the MLB playoff portion of this video, you guys can skip ahead to the 3 minute mark in the video, and you'll get that. But beforehand, I want to just talk about the past 2 weeks. Obviously, we've missed the past 2 weeks of the NFL and college football. I do apologize for that. Been tough to get Sam and Stravinsky on here to do some videos as well. And, obviously, because it's more fun with them than just myself. I'm sure you want to hear from them and not just me. So, been trying to obviously coordinate with them, and it hasn't worked out so far. Schedule's just not necessarily working. Obviously, we all have, our own jobs that we're working at, where we're at. And so this isn't our, primary focus. We work our other jobs too, and we're all just busy people. So just haven't been able to really get stuff done in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, we still made our picks. I recorded them. I still have to put in our picks for this past week. Also been looking at possibly getting some other people on board. Get some new faces. I'm sure you'd like to see more people on here. I'm sure you're kind of getting bored of the same old people all the time. So, bring some more people on and just kind of change some things up a little bit. But, that's what's been going on for the past 2 weeks. Hopefully, we should have some more NFL, college football videos out this week. Tomorrow, hopefully, or I'm sorry, by Wednesday, probably, or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. It depends on, if I still have enough energy to actually put in the um, put it in. I don't even know. I probably should do it today because there's all the playoff baseball tomorrow actually. So, well, I don't know. We'll see. I do plan on making those videos happen though. Maybe I'll do it Wednesday morning or something. That should work. But that's what I got for you there. That's what's going on that front. But obviously, like I said, but we should have it out this week. Just really need to catch up on stuff and really get going and whatever else. So that's all I got there. Let's get into these baseball picks, man. This is gonna be a great season. It's always great watching playoff baseball. I'll quickly just kind of show you the actual bracket and how it looks. You already saw the AL side here, so you saw that matchup. I'm just kind of going around to show you what we've got here. But I mean, this is gonna be a great season. Great, some really good teams in here. There's some surprises as well. Obviously, this is a much smaller playoff field. You don't see nearly as much in the MLB as you do in the NFL, or I'm sorry, in like some other leagues. Cincinnati Reds was quite the shocker, making it to the playoffs. Ahead of the New York Mets, who had a monumental collapse at the end of the year, let the Reds sneak in at the 6th seed. We won't talk about the other team that nearly missed the playoffs because of their own monumental collapse, but you already saw them on the other side of the bracket. uh, but yeah, I mean, there's some great matchups out here as well. I mean, a lot of good teams that made it as well. It's going to be a great season. It always is, and yeah, let's just get into it. We'll start on the AL side with the AL wildcard games. And we'll just go, round by round. I did this for the NCAA tournament. I'll do it the same way for the MLB and whatever other playoff videos I end up doing for some other league like the NBA or whatever. But I'll go round by round, starting with the wild card games on each end. Starting with the AL wild card, and let's just rip off the Band-Aid early. It's the Tigers who had probably one who almost gave they did give away the division actually. They did that, which was beyond insane. Um still made the playoffs. And they'll get to play Cleveland again because, God, we just love playing that team. It has not been sharp for the Tigers down the stretch here. I mean, multiple losses. You know, lose three straight, get swept by the Braves, swept by Cleveland, nearly swept by Cleveland again on the road. I mean, it just absolutely horrible baseball at the end of the year. Constantly, chasing at pitches. It was not pretty. It was tough to watch. It was painful. And watching us give away a division like that when we really should have had it a long time ago was even equally just as more painful. And, obviously we still made the playoffs and we still have a chance here to get the better of Cleveland and make our way to the Cleveland Guardians and make our way into the ALDS and get the Seattle Mariners. I want to say the Tigers will win this game, but I can't. And I hate picking Cleveland to move on, but I have no faith in this team right now. I've seen the last few games, and yes, we look a little bit better, you know, for sure against Boston, but it's a nightmare for us. It's just horrid baseball. And I'll give us one game. Obviously the first round is a 3-game series. So their best two. I'm sorry, whoops, not that. Their best 2 out of 3. I'll give us one of them because we do have Scooble pitching, but I've seen so many times Cleveland do this to us, and yes, this is the playoffs. Yes, everything else really doesn't matter anymore. But to an extent, still, it's like, yeah, it's happened enough times. So I think it should be very competitive. I mean, we always tend to make it close until the end, and when our bullpen gives it away. But I'm taking Cleveland. And yes, this is not a great baseball team. Cleveland really is just not that good, but this is just the Cleveland way. They find ways to win when they have no business doing it. And so, I can't deny the fact that I think they'll likely just do it again. So I am going to take Cleveland in this one. They move on to play the Seattle Mariners. I can see the Tigers winning it too, but just I'm picking Cleveland. I have more belief in Cleveland finding ways to win, and just you know, I think Cleveland just finds ways to win games that they shouldn't. They do stupid stuff. They do stuff that just doesn't make sense. They're not a good team on paper, but they still win. The stats don't look good. The record maybe isn't necessarily the best, but I'm sorry, the stats don't look great. Sometimes they don't even look that good. But fact of the matter is, they find ways to win, and the Tigers just haven't. So I am going to go Cleveland. I think they get the better of the Tigers here. They move on to the next round. And then we have, and Tigers and Guardians, obviously, heated rivalry between those two, and that should be very fun to witness and see. But then you got this rivalry. These two are playing each other in the wild card. Is the Red Sox and the Yankees. I'm sorry, it doesn't get much better than this. This is outstanding to get this as a wild card round series. I mean, are you kidding me? This is what we get in round 1. A wild card round, you get a 3-game series between these two, and one of them gets to play Toronto afterward. Like, come on, man, that's just awesome. And I think this series in and of itself will be awesome because these two teams are both extremely good. Both these offenses, to me, are lethal. And pitching staffs on both sides, hilariously enough, are actually very thin. Both of these teams, I think, have at least 2 good, solid pitchers. Well, I think the Yankees 2 starters are better than the Boston 2 starters. But then once you get after those 2 guys, it's like, oh boy. So I am very interested in seeing how these managers handle the series. Like, if Boston wins, who do they pitch in game two? New York wins, who they pitch in game two? Who they pitch in game two? This is going to be so much fun. Obviously, it'll all be in Yankee Stadium. They are the higher seed. And the games will be in Cleveland as well, of course. Um, it's tough for me to pick either one of these two. When the season began, I had Boston as my dark horse to win the World Series. I loved this team, and I still do. I think this is a very good Boston team. Um, the one thing I am going to it's tough to go either way here. I think it's automatically. I think it's going to go 3 games. I don't think either of these two are going to win in three. I'm sorry, in two. But I'm going to give it to the Yankees here slightly. I think this is going to be absolutely awesome to watch. Outstanding. As much. I mean, it's Boston and it's Red Sox Yankees. It's must watch television. These are all the 6 o'clock games, starting tomorrow, of course. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the wild card games. Tigers and Guardians, that series starts at 1 o'clock, which, uh, you know, I get it. You don't want you want every game to have its own spotlight, but bro, everybody's at work at 1 o'clock. Okay, why is it a 1 o'clock game? Yes, I get it. Boston, New York is a much bigger series than Detroit and Cleveland. But couldn't you just run them alongside each other or something? I mean, come on. Why do we have to, you know, like I get you want them all to have their own spotlight, but come on, man. At least schedule them when no one's working. But oh well. Boston, New York, though. Give me the Yankees. Very tight series. It is going to be outstanding. It's going to be a ton of fun. But I am going to give the Yankees a very slight edge there. I think they move on to play the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we go to the NL wildcard games. Reds and Dodgers. I, I- you know, like I said, the Reds snuck in at the last second. They just snuck ahead of the New York Mets, who gave away their spot to Cincinnati, and even gave away the division to the Phillies, but Phillies kind of ran away with it at the end. But even gave away their wild card spot, missed the playoffs entirely, allowing the Reds to sneak in. But you can kind of see, I already put it in there. Dodgers are healthy. That is a problem for anyone. If the Dodgers are healthy, they are the best team in baseball, and they are right now. Now, I know their bullpen has struggled a little bit. They've had some bullpen issues. Guys haven't necessarily played very well, which has even led to some question marks on maybe even Shohei Ohtani gain put as a bullpen arm to help out the ailing bullpen, and that's kind of to fix the issue that the Dodgers have had this year. But to me, the starting pitching is healthy, and they'll probably just pitch the starting pitching as long as necessary, protect the bullpen. I'm sure they'll have, maybe they will have Ohtani pitch a couple outings, or they have Clayton Kershaw too. They might just throw him out there. I mean, they have starting pitching galore. I think they have options that can get them around those bullpen struggles and protect the guys that just haven't necessarily, you know, played the way you would want them to. So I am taking the Dodgers to win both here, get the 2-game sweep, and move on to play the Phillies. Should be epic, but I am going. Should be. I mean, it could be fun, but I think the Reds, they're a young team. They got to the playoffs, good for them. But when you have to face the Dodgers, I'm sorry, but there's not much I can do that you can do really. And now we have another outstanding wild card series. The Padres and the Cubs. Both of these two high expectations coming into the season. Both end up losing the division. Padres kind of to be expected. I mean, the Dodgers are nasty. Cubs end up just losing it to a Brewers team that came out of nowhere, but we'll get into them later. Um, Both of these two are very good. Padres have been more oriented towards their pitching. Starting pitching, they have a couple good ones, but it's been a little shaky for the starting pitching for the Padres. But the bullpen is absolutely lethal. No one has been able to touch the Padre bullpen. As for the Chicago Cubs, well, they're an offensively minded team. This team loves to score and score only. Pitching has been a little bit better towards the end of the year for the Chicago Cubs, but it's still. I wouldn't say the Cubs pitching is really the strength of the team. They score and they score runs and they score it a lot. They also like to steal bases. Very good at that. Very good running team. Um, I'm very interested in seeing how this series goes. Obviously, these will all be at Wrigley Field. Padres are just a really good team, and so are the Cubs. They're a little young. This is one where I think is also going to go 3 games. I don't see anyone really, running away with this one. And everyone's gonna be like, if you pick the Padres, you're just picking, the old team or whatever. You're not picking the fun, exciting one. Um, because I think everybody kind of wants the Cubs to win. Because I think people have just kind of seen enough of the Padres at this point. Maybe even, but people don't like the Cubs either, though. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, um, I think this will be very fun. It should be very tight. Should be very close. Um, it's tough for me to go really one way or the other in this because as much as I want to take the Padres, I can't deny how good the Cubs have been this year. Um, So actually, I am going to take the Chicago Cubs here. I'm going to give them a 2-1 series win. They're a young team, but this is one I do firmly believe in. I love the Padres. This is such a good series. I think this is flip a coin. Who knows? This is going to be so good. I think the Cubs have a little bit more, have enough offense that they can at least get to this Padre, starting pitching early, and then they're just able to hold on after that. It should be very fun, but I'm going to give the Cubs the edge at home. They move on to the next round, and they will play their arch rivals of the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to go to the other end of the bracket here, where we have first the Cleveland taking on Seattle. Yeah, I'm not taking long with this one. I told you before, I'm not a big believer in Seattle. I do not like. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not a big believer in Cleveland. I do not think they're that good of a team. I just think they'll beat the Tigers because it does kind of not been sharp lately. Seattle is nasty. They've been very good. They've always had a great pitching staff. They arguably have the best closer in baseball right now, next to Raldis Chapman, who's obviously been just as dominant. Um, with Andres Munoz, who has been locked down all year. Cleveland does not have an offense to match up with Seattle, and Seattle's offense has more than enough to overcome the rather lackluster Cleveland pitching. So I am going to take Seattle and move on to the next round and get to the ALCS. I just think Seattle. And I wasn't necessarily all in on Seattle, but I kept seeing them win, and I kept more and more and more. And you look at their team, and it's like, dang, they actually do have some good players. So this is a good Seattle team, and they haven't won, obviously. I don't even know if they've won a playoff series, actually. It's been tough sledding for the Mariners, but if any year is the year for them to make a run, this is it. And I think they're going to start off well with beating up on Cleveland and getting themselves to the ALCS. And then we have the Yankees and the Blue Jays. These two were duking it out for the division towards the end of the season. Um, Blue Jays are a good team. I think they've done very well for themselves, but I think the Yankees are also very good. I think both of these teams could easily, take the division. I'm sorry, take the series here and move on. But I just believe in the Yankees a little bit more, and people are gonna think that's bias, but I am gonna go with 5-game series. Toronto's been very good this year, but the Yankees, there's too much talent on that team to deny that they can't make it all the way to the ALCS. I think they do it again. They always do. Yankees. get to the ALCS. They'll take on the Seattle Mariners, and which should be a very fun series. I would expect a lot of fireworks in that. Should be very fun. Obviously, should that happen, but I'm not necessarily doubting the fact that it will. Dodgers and Phillies. Yeah, this is a great one. Once again, we have another outstanding series on our hands. And I said, like I said earlier, the Dodgers are healthy, and a healthy Dodger team just means nightmares for whoever has to deal with them. And the Phillies have an outstanding team, and this is another one where I think is going to go 5 games. I think the Phillies could easily get the better of the Dodgers. Obviously, like I said, lackluster bullpen, not necessarily what the Dodgers, are hoping for. Hasn't been necessarily up to par, but to me, just the Dodgers, I think, are too good for the Phillies. It'll be very tight, and I don't doubt that the Dodgers could wind up losing this series, but I am going to give it to the LA Dodgers in 5. They move on to um, the NLCS, and then they'll take on the winner of the Cubs and the Brewers. Brewers have been very surprising this year. They've had and have really run away, come out of nowhere, and does have looked outstanding this year. 97-65, best record in Major League Baseball. Um, Here's my concern when it comes to the Brewers. This team doesn't hit a lot of homers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And you could say, well, who cares? People have gotten to the playoffs and done fine with not being able to hit homers. Here's the thing with the Brew Crew. 97-65, really stinking good record, but maybe you guys remember, maybe you don't. This team had 2 stretches where they won multiple games in a row, got extremely hot, won a crud ton of games, and what was it, 12 in a row one time, and I think 14 the other, and that adds up to 26 games. So you take out those 26 games, there's 71-65. So that's telling me when things aren't necessarily going as well, Brewers are just barely above 500. And now you can say, and listen, you can say that about a lot of teams, like, oh, take out their hot streaks, and of course they're not going to be as good. My point is, they've been a barely above 500 team when things haven't necessarily gone as they would hope. When they're not extremely bouncing off the walls and just hit after hit after hit and stuff. It's just kind of been okay. And that's more what I think this Brewer team is. They're not a bad team by any means. I think the Brewers are very good. I mean, they're very dependent on immense amounts of speed. Freddie Peralta's been healthy all year, and we know when he's healthy, he's an awesome pitcher. And they've had some other young, and they're a very young team on top of it. The Brewers are very good, but to me, I think the creme de la creme of this division was the Cubs, and I think the Cubs will do it. I think the Cubs will sneak out of here. I think the Cubs are able to knock off the Brewers, and I'm going to give the Cubs the edge here once again. And this one, I am going to give it. I'll give it 5 games. I debated 4, but I think the Brewers will make it tough. They'll make the Cubs work for it, but I'll go with Chicago to move on, and they'll face the Dodgers in the NLCS. Now we go to the AL side, and yes, I do have the Dodgers and the Yankees here again, but again, they are the best teams. But Seattle Mariners and New York Yankees. These are 2 very interesting teams. I think this could be very fun to see. Mariners just they have a really good team, man. They have lots of good hitting. They have some very good pitching with some good bullpen arms. The Yankees, to me, they have all offense. There's certainly no doubt that they have the best offense probably in baseball. They can score at will, no problem. My concern with them is once you get, because now this is a 7-game series, mind you. Now you're going to have more than just, a handful of pitchers. And really, they only have 2 dependable starters. They can get through a 5-game series with Toronto and maybe escape and, get away with it. But now you're going to have to go to a 7-game series. You need more than just, Max Fried and Carlos Rodon to basically carry you through this entire series. And the Mariners, they do have more than that. They have 3, maybe even 4 guys that they can reasonably depend on to get them through, along with a solid enough offense with a struggling, Yankee bullpen that hasn't necessarily been as sharp either. To carry them through and get them enough wins to move on. And I think this is a very good Yankees team. Like I said, best offense in baseball, no question. I think the Mariners beat them. I have the Mariners going to the World Series. And it kind of seems crazy because, again, it's not like the Mariners haven't ever won anything in their life. um, but I'm giving them a 6-game series. I think Seattle does it. I think they take the win take it over to Yankees. They move on to the World Series and they take on the winner of the Cubs and the Dodgers. And again, for the Dodgers, struggling bullpen. Similar to the Yankees, honestly. Struggling bullpen, one of the better offenses in baseball. They have more pitching, starting pitching than the Yankees do. But and like I said, I think this could easily be the Padres too. But this is going to be very fun. And I think the Cubs really, because they're lacking, they kind of lack really pitching in general. They're more of an offensively minded team. This is one where I think the Dodgers will sneak out in 7. Going to be really tight. This type of series, I think, will be really fun. The Cubs have loads of offense. I think they're a very good baseball team. They steal bases all the time. But the Cubs can play. The Cubs they spent on a lot of guys. They brought in a lot of players, and they got it. And they got the wins for it. But I do think the Dodgers will sneak away with this one. I think they get into the World Series, and then we'll have a Mariners Dodgers World Series. And in that type of World Series, I think I think at this point, you get through that series, you get through the Phillies. I think for the Dodgers, that bullpen, like I said, it's not played well. And, nothing to say that I think that the Dodger bullpen can certainly pull it together by the time we get to this series and they have to play the Mariners. So I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm taking Seattle to win it all. I think Seattle wins this one in 7 over the Dodgers, and they win the World Series. They win their first ever. This Seattle team with the amount of talent that it has. You trade for Eugenio Suarez, who has been awful actually with Seattle. He has not been good. But there's no doubting that he could certainly turn it around when playoffs come. I mean, playoff baseball is a much different animal, and to me, Seattle has so many dudes that just are good. And so many guys who also have just been good coming to this point. And so to me, I think Seattle has what it takes to get here. I think they also be the more rested team due to the fact they've had to play way less games to get here, which means they're not nearly as beat up as the Dodgers probably are, having to slug their way through the National League side. But I think this Mariners team has just shown how good they can be. They can score. And listen, the last and listen, I know that between Seattle and LA, they just played each other a minute ago here in the last series, and the Dodgers won all 3 games. Seattle had nothing to play for at that point. They had the 2 seed locked up. I'm not even sure they were really playing, like starters, and they were still, even without starters, again, they had already locked up the AL, yeah, AL West. I had it right. They already locked up the AL West at that point, and they really had nothing else to play for because they weren't going to get ahead of the Blue Jays. And so at that point, it was for the for the Mariners. It was like, well, what's the point of really, playing all of our, top hitters and whatever? It doesn't really make that much of a difference. And you know, again, they did play some of their top hitters in like the first few games. Again, they were all close. They were right there with the Dodgers in every single game. Um, and even in some of them, they kind of took out a bunch of the big time stars and just kind of let them rest. So, I'm going to give the edge here to Seattle. I think that the Mariners will kind of come away with this one. Cal Raleigh, obviously, with being a big part of that. They hit homers galore. So I love the Mariners here. I'm taking Seattle to kind of turn some heads, shock a lot of people, take down the Dodgers, and win the World Series. That's what I got here. So that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll have some more NFL stuff and football stuff and whatever else coming to you later. But for right now, that's all for me. Now, I'll see you next time. Until then, adios, everyone.